What's going on, everybody? My name is Sebastian, and today I'm showing you one of my drawings that I made here in my sketchbook. This is a continuation of the last video that I posted on my channel, which is the part 1. In there, I show the process that I took of creating this drawing. Today's video is going to focus on the explanation really of like the details, the different components of the drawing and why I added those certain details the way I did. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Thank you for joining us here today in this conversation that I'm going to be having where I explain the different components of a street in a particular city and the different spaces that we have available to us. Now, of course, our spaces in cities are more compact. We only have so much space that we have available to work with. So it is very important that we use as much space as we possibly can in the most efficient manner, but also in the most sustainable manner. Sustainable in a variety of different ways, most importantly, sustainable for our health and our well-being. We as human beings, we are natural beings. We come from the earth, literally. We come from the earth, and when it's time for us to move on, we go back into the earth. That is why it's very important for us to be connected to the elements that we have available to us relating to the natural environment. Cities are, I guess you could say, kind of harsh, like in a city like New York, for example, is considered like the concrete jungle because the majority of everything is just like concrete and all that. But there are still spaces within the city that resonate with nature, like the parks, for example, or certain public spaces. And when it comes to the designs of our streets, when it comes to the design of our buildings, we can really take steps as designers and as people who just live in these buildings who may have some kind of input on a designer or a particular developer. Like, hey, we can incorporate different elements that allow us to be connected to those natural elements. It's very important for us as designers to take into consideration how are we designing the spaces that we live in and interact with. Are we dividing ourselves from the natural environment, or are we incorporating the natural environment with us? I find that a lot of times, especially like in older buildings and stuff like that, depending on where you're from though, buildings tend to segregate us from the outdoors and from the rest of the natural environment. And I want to do everything in my power to be able to bring nature closer to us in any way that we can, even in existing buildings that we currently reside in. We can make simple alterations or changes that can help us become more balanced in the sense that we have more interaction with natural elements such as the air, such as water, such as greenery, trees, grass, dirt, maybe stone, all these different things that contribute to the experience that we have here on this earth. This drawing depicts the corner of a particular street that I made up. And in this drawing, I wanted to depict how an urban streetscape, an urban environment can look by implementing lots of different concepts relating to the usability of the street, maximizing the use of space that is available to us and design it in an intentional way that serves the varying necessities of the community. One big example in this is the use of bike lanes, protected bike lanes, and really dedicating a space for different modes of getting around. So you have a wide sidewalk, which provides plenty of space for pedestrians to walk in either direction. And then you have a dedicated bike lane space, which really gives a safe space for bikes to be able to ride along the street without having to worry about the dangers of riding on a street directly next to passing motor vehicles. Now, bike lanes and protected bike lanes is nothing new, but I just really felt passionate about this subject, and I wanted to depict this in a way that is not only aesthetically pleasing, but it's very useful. So here you have the roads where cars will be able to pass through, and then you have a little glimpse of what the parking situation could be. So this could be like on-street parking. That could be more of like a flexible space. It could be on-street parking, it could be a bus stop, it could be anything. But in this particular scenario, it's just showing some parking spaces right here with a planter housing different plants and a tree to provide shade for the street. And if you notice in this planter, you have these openings here, and these openings is meant to be the drain for the water when it rains. Now the water that it collects through here goes directly into the planter, so it waters the plants and the tree so that it doesn't have to be emptied out through a sewer system and then perhaps drained onto like a river or something, which will end up polluting the river. So it's designed in a way where it collects the water. And then if you notice here on this sidewalk here, you have this little thing here in the middle that's also a drain that is connected to this, which will drain the water that it collects from here, coming from the bike lane and from the main road, coming together and then draining in either direction, right, or whatever direction. In this case, it would be draining it to this planter and feeding the water in here. And now that I'm thinking about it, potentially it could also water each of these planters, but that's just the concept. Anyway, you will also notice how there's like multiple sidewalks in here. So this is the main sidewalk where most people would be traveling on. And then you kind of have like this little decorated brick pattern on the edge of it where it houses like the street lamps and some of the signs. But this sidewalk is intended to be used for the people who would be getting off of their parked vehicle from here, so that they have a place to go to without interrupting the flow of the bike traffic. Now, let's suppose someone parked here and, you know, someone in that party had a wheelchair. They're able, because this is level with this, people will be able to go directly using their wheelchair, use this space and come here behind this and be able to go on the ramp using this ramp here to be able to access the main sidewalk without having to struggle or go through any kind of difficulty with the curb that is present on the edge of this. Now, directing our attention from the street to the buildings, on the buildings you see how there's a lot of rooftop gardens being implemented here. Now, rooftop gardens is something that can really use the valuable space that you have on the top of a building, where usually you would just have things like air conditioners, maybe little access points and other pipes and other things like that. The roofs of buildings could be intentionally designed to house more than just those utilitarian machinery or whatever. You can have access to the roof and be able to use the roof space as a rooftop garden to plant fruits and vegetables, because depending on the size of the building and the roof, all in all, there's a lot of space on the roof, assuming that the roof is flat. And if it is flat, you see how like I gave this example of what usually roofs look like without any kind of rooftop garden. So you see it's just a bunch of flat space, you know, empty space, and then you have like the utilitarian things like the air conditioning units and whatever. But in here, you have an example of how it could be used for more than just that. You can plant fruits and vegetables. That way you have direct access to fresh produce without the need to having to go to a store or to have to outsource it from an outside area. In this example, I showed how this building has a tree literally growing in the middle of it, and there being like an opening for this. Now, this could be kind of like a like an atrium kind of thing, or like a little courtyard space that's housed in the middle of this building with a tree growing in the middle. So that's the example I have here. And then I'll also show rooftop access with some planters here where people can plant whatever they want. Additionally, we have the use of backyard space and an alleyway space that you can kind of barely see over here. But that little sliver of space, I was able to depict how you have a little bit of an alleyway space so that the buildings in here will be able to have another access point on the rear side of the building using the alleyway. Same thing with the buildings on the other side of the block. And these residential buildings, of course, can have backyard space where they have like plants and a little bit of a green space or whatever, a patio space. In terms of like the street elements, you know, you just have pretty much all the street elements that you would expect on a street. You know, you have your street lamps, your pedestrian signals, your motor vehicle signals. You even have a dedicated signal specifically for the bike lane too. So you have a signal for the bike lane, a signal for the cars, and you just have, I just wanted to put as much details as I possibly can. You even have a little garbage can right here that it just adds to it and really just kind of sets the scene for what it is that we're looking at. And we even, you know, I like to use a lot of outdoor space. In this particular restaurant, this building is a restaurant, you have seating that is available indoors, but you also have outdoor seating available, so that we're incorporating that indoor-outdoor element. I like to incorporate that indoor-outdoor element. I believe that buildings could be designed in a way that balances the inside space, but also the outside natural space, and fully taking advantage of, you know, fresh air and sunlight and different elements, instead of separating people from those natural elements. I believe we should be able to incorporate those elements within our designs. That's why you see a lot of indoor-outdoor space, like again with the courtyard thing over here, and you know, the rooftop gardens. You even have a kind of like a second floor, like an open kind of rooftop space where people can also eat in the restaurant. It doesn't necessarily have to be all indoors. There's also like kind of like an outdoor space up here that they're able to access through the second floor. And it has a trellis on top to provide a little bit of shade. So you have tables and chairs in here, and yeah, you have that kind of space in there. Also, I really love incorporating the use of like, again, like balconies. So you see in like kind of like this building, I incorporated some balconies here so that again, people will be able to take advantage of the indoor outdoor spaces. And I have a little bit of contrast right next to it with a little bit of like a traditional style building that you can barely see over here, but it's still there. You can see it, that's the little door, that's the window, and you can even see a little bit of the cornice of the building right there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate every single one of you. If you made it this far into the video, please be sure to give this video a like. That's gonna help my channel out so much. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss the next video that I'm going to be posting or any future videos. I would love to hear from you guys. Please leave a comment in the comment section. What did you think about today's video? What would you like to see in the future? Is there anything that I talked about today that resonated with you, that sparked a conversation within you? Again, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.